Well, hi, Anna. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for having me.
Well, can you just introduce yourself a little bit more to the audience so they can better understand how you support?
Sure. So, my name is Anna Marcolin. I'm a psychotherapist and life coach. I have been practicing for almost 3 decades in the suburbs of Chicago. So, gosh, where do I start? I started out many years ago working in, clinical counseling. Really started going all the way back to the very beginning. I was in maternal and child health. So, I did a lot of supportive counseling, crisis intervention, grief and loss counseling because I was a therapist in a neonatal intensive care unit, a pediatric intensive care unit, and emergency room trauma. So I spent years in hospitals counseling in that milieu, and then went into the outpatient setting, and then I moved into psychiatry. So that was working with individuals with eating disorders. I did that for many years, and that actually is still a specialty of mine, anorexia and bulimia nervosa in particular. And so spent years in the hospital setting, but more at an outpatient level. All the while, I was a triathlete, a competitive triathlete myself. So when I started my practice and I moved into, privately seeing clients, I started to coach people. And I found that what I was doing was that I was coaching people up who were my therapy clients. And I was in a large group practice with therapists and coaches. And my coaching colleagues would say to me in our consultation groups, "You're more like a coach. You're coaching. That's what we're doing." And so about 10 years ago, I really shifted into my practice being split between psychotherapy and life coaching. So, you name it. I mean, I've spent years being only a couples therapist and a family therapist, then went into just individual. That's what I do now. And I do individual counseling, and I do individual coaching. And as well, I do run group coaching programs.
Yeah, so helping us process our life experiences
Yep.
and our interactions with the people we have connections with in our lives, and then working with people on kind of where they really want to be going and how to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and the therapy clients come to me, and many of them want to unpack the past, and they need to spend time there, looking at the inner child, looking at trauma and shame. And that's unfortunately very, very common today. My coaching clients, most of them who come to me, they have been in therapy and they've worked on a lot of those issues and they're resolved. So, their baseline is just a little bit higher when they come to me because they've done a lot of that important soul work. I call it soul work. And they're saying, "But I want to improve my life. I still want to improve my communication with my spouse. I want to open up that store. I've always wanted to have this brick and mortar. I need help with it because I do have some limiting beliefs going on."
Yeah.
So, it doesn't mean when you spend years in therapy that all that goes away. It's still, fine tuning the machine of your mind. But coaching takes you to another level where I'm asking you questions and really questioning you about why you're thinking the way you're thinking. So, it's both are so valuable, because like you and I talked before we started recording. I mean, I've been in therapy and have been coached for years, and they both are so important to me in my life. Therapists allowing me to process and to sit with my feelings with no agenda. And my life coaches and business coaches going, "Okay, what are you going to do this week that you said you were going to do? I'm holding you accountable to it. I'm
Yeah.
texting you on Friday." They're both wonderful.
So valuable. And I've had both as well. And I contribute to where I am today in my career because of those experiences. But let's just break down for the listener, what is a therapist and what is a life coach?
Okay, so I'll first start by very simply stating that therapists, most of us are licensed mental health people. So we've all gone to graduate school, we've all sat for a licensing exam, 2 years full time post grad, or it's 4 years part time post grad. You sit for the exam, and you probably know about this as well, and then you get your licensure. So I'm technically a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Illinois. Once you get that, you can open up your private practice. The people who come to me for psychotherapy are people who anxiety disorders, mood disorders. I still treat people with eating disorders. That's a lot of trauma work. So I'm a trauma specialist. I've been doing that for almost 30 years. I was trained in trauma and have been continuing that education way back to when I was doing grief and loss with parents who had lost their children at birth. So it's much more intensive. And as a therapist, I don't set the agenda for my clients. The clients come as they are, and I sit with them. And if it takes them 3 months because they're processing something, that's what we're doing. For the most part, people, they get better when they stop talking about it because they know that they've resolved something. And I have no agenda for them. I am there for them completely. A coaching client comes to me and they do have things that they want to do in their life. They do want to heal that relationship with their sister. And I'm going to work with them by asking them a lot of questions and really challenging their beliefs about themselves and what they believe they can and they can't do, even if it's like a huge falling out with your sister or moving to that next level in corporate America. Most of us have self-talk that talks at us negatively all day long, lives rent-free in our heads, and I challenge those thoughts. But coaching, I'm a little bit more direct with you. I'm going to stay on you about it, and I'm going to hold you accountable to what you said you wanted to do. So I'm like kind of the angel on your shoulder, I'll say, not the devil. I'm the angel on your shoulder going like, hey, Susie, remember you said you wanted this. You can do it. Let's go. Come on, let's
Yeah.
go. I always tell my coaching clients, I'm like, you're at mile 20 of a marathon. You got 6.2 miles left to go. I'm there at mile 20, jogging next to you going, go, you got this. You can do this. Remember what you said you wanted. So therapy and coaching really do fit very nicely together. The reason why people come to me as a life coach is because I have that mental health background. So people come to me and they say, I don't want you to be my therapist, but I love that you're a mental health person because I know you know cognitive behavioral therapy. I know that you're going to listen for your antenna goes up and you listen for the things I'm sort of not saying that maybe other life coaches are not trained in. I know you are. So that's really what sets me apart from everybody else as a coach.
So I often just witness in my friends, in my family, and myself our limiting beliefs. You can hear it in the conversation, you can hear it in your self-talk that you want to accomplish something, but you think you're going to have to do these 5 steps in order to get there. When, right, the universe in a variety of circumstances could work in your favor and can speed up that timeline. It's just our own limiting beliefs that think that we have to do those steps first. Now, how do you work with a client that comes to you and says, I want this, but I'm here and it's never going to happen?
Almost every client that comes to me, I'm working with them on I'm doing cognitive therapy. And that I do that with therapy clients, I do it with coaching clients. You've got to learn what are your unhelpful thought patterns, or what we used to call, or I still call them, they're thought distortions. I have them, you have them. Every single human on this planet has thought distortions. I tell my clients all the time, the difference between me and you is that you just don't know what they are for you. I've been trained
Yeah.
in it and I've had to do my own work in it. So I know what my thought distortions are. So everybody starts there. Everybody starts with looking at their mind and what they're thinking and then why they think the way they do. And my job is to question their thoughts, question why they believe or why they're saying what they're saying. Many times clients will say, I don't know why. I just do. I just go there. Or they'll say something like, well, because my mom always told me I'd never be able to do it. That's very important and it's very common. A coach told me that you're never going to get to the top of the podium. You're never going to be in first place. You're not playing D1 basketball. Like, forget about it. Just enjoy it now in high school, but you're not a D1 candidate. And we just let that just kind of marinate inside of us in a negative way. And you would probably be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised so much, but I think people would be surprised to hear how that theme can run through people's lives
Yeah.
in their personal and their work life 20 years later.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So I start with cognitive therapy. It's very common. Many coaches today are borrowing from that field of psychology.
What about happiness and unhappiness? So when you have clients that come to you and they just said, I'm just not happy, like all I want in life is to be happy.
Yeah.
That's a challenging, generalized thought or feeling. How do you approach and work with clients who are just seeking happiness?
What does happiness mean to you? How do you define it? What does it mean? And I will say that I don't. Sometimes I will play devil's advocate and question the term happiness. I've talked about this many times with clients in my office, and actually I speak about this publicly and on my podcast. I don't know that happiness ought to be the goal. I
Yes.
think the goal is contentment. The goal is peace. When I used to run, when I worked in psych, I used to work in a young adult partial program. So that was 18 to 24-year-olds. And then we had the 25 and up, the regular adult. These were people from everyday walks of life. People think that individuals in psychiatric units are like, you do see some more severe mental illnesses. Most of those people are run of the mill, everyday people who've just gotten into a really low place in their lives. They're just like me and you, but they've just
Mhm.
really hit a bump in the road, and they or someone in their life said to them, you should take some time out from work and do this 15-day program. So I would run these groups with these young adults and these adults. And one thing I loved about the programs that I worked in was myself and my colleagues. We do a check-in with all the patients. We call them patients. Say, we all sit around in a group talking about how our day was, how our morning was going. And we loved it when patients would say, today was okay. And we would say, okay is good. Okay is good. We love okay. Because we don't expect you to say, life's great. It's great. It's so wonderful. No, no, no. Those are mountaintop experiences. And that's not what most of us live every day. We're not living mountaintop experiences. We don't want you down the valley all the time saying life
Yeah.
sucks. It's bad. Okay, that we as therapists, and group leaders are going to be concerned, and we're going to pull you aside and we're going to talk to you about that. But most people would say, it's okay. So okay is you're halfway up the mountain and you stopped, and that's where we want you to live. So I think it's really important when we talk about happiness. Happiness, number one, what does it mean to you? And number two, maybe you're thinking a little bit more into how can I find peace and contentment in my everyday life?
Yes. And that's what I'm personally just working on right now is like,
Mhm.
how do I create a life that I really love, whether it's hour by hour or day by day or week by week, but overall that I love it and
Yes.
then allow everything else to fall into place. It doesn't have to be perfect every day, but just the overall theme of my life I really need to love. And a lot of the spiritual practitioners I've worked with and interviewed over the years, they've always told me that happiness isn't real. So
Right.
joy as a spiritual being is our natural state. That's a very high vibration,
Mhm.
and we all get to carry that and be in that. Happy is like this man-made word and
Yes.
man-made product, and it is almost not natural. Have you
Right.
ever heard any spiritual practitioners talk about that?
You know, I agree with you about joy. I believe that paying attention to the world of meditation and mindfulness for so many years now, and that's a big part of how I work with my clients. Meditation, I was going to mention that too when I talk about peace and contentment. That for me in my own life has come from a spirituality practice as a spiritual person, specifically a meditation practice and a practice of prayer. That
Yeah.
has brought me to this place of contentment that not every day is perfect. So that's a huge part. And I could pull from all kinds of people that I've read from and learned from over the years. I think that what I want to highlight is something you just said, which I think is something many people struggle with. You said the word perfect or perfection. And, once we really, really adopt the idea that there is no perfection in our lives, and today's not going to be perfect. I'm going to do my darndest, and I may fail, but fail forward. Get back up, dust the dirt off from your knees, and keep moving forward. That perfection has got to be taken out of our vocabularies because, okay, the only time, and I was thinking about this recently, the only time I would say that people, when I have clients, athletes who talk back to me, they'll say, Anna, no, if you're at the Olympic level, it has to be perfect. In Paris 2024 Olympics, you need to do, you're trying to get to a 10. You're trying to get a perfect score. That's the only caveat, the only time when I would say, all right, I understand that, the drive for perfection at the Olympic level. Other than that, and that's what less than 1% of the population of humans on this earth, get perfection out. Put in drive, put in goals, take action, but not perfection. And the way that for me I've gotten there is through my spiritual practices, accepting myself with all of my frailties, the pockmarks on my face, so to speak, all that's not okay with me, and really accepting that.
With that in mind, how do we shift our energy? Because if we can shift our energy, we can shift our mindset, right? So
Mhm.
if we're in a downward spiral place or if we're talking negatively to ourselves, how do we pause for a moment and make the switch and allow it to really like resonate and set in? And so then we then step out as that higher, more positive version of ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that it's different for each person. It's going to needs to find their own way. So the way to shift energy, what I'll tell you what I do and what I talk to my clients about doing. So if I'm in a funk, then I literally, and I'm in a like a mindset funk and I'm doing this downward spiral of negative thinking, I actually have to physically remove myself from the room I'm in. So what often helps me is to get out of like my home office, go outside. So being out in nature is really, really important. Even if you're like me in Chicago in cold winter months, it doesn't matter. Go stand outside, feel that cold wind on your face. It'll remind you that you're alive, and that can take you out of the mindset that you're in that's pulling you down. So I
Yeah.
think that that's to changing your so it's changing your state. So what we talk about when I say change your state, for some people it's literally change the room that you're in. Go out of the building or go to another part of the building. That might help you. Go outside, look at the sun. Okay, that's a higher vibration. For many people, so that's for people who are more introverted as well as extroverted. I'm an extrovert. I do this with a lot of introverts. For people who are, and there's the ambiverts, the people in the middle. For people who are really extroverted, if you want to change your vibration, you need to surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to be doing. And I think that's really important. If you want to be around, if you've noticed like nobody around me is like high vibe, like I want to get in this high vibe state. I want to change my energy. But like my spouse is like this and my whatever. The people in your life that you live closest to, think about
Yeah.
their vibration. No
Yeah.
knock on them, no judgment on them. But when you want to change your vibration, you got to go seek it. So I think it's really important to get out there and to meet people who are high vibe, who will make you think differently and build you up and tell you, they may challenge you, but they'll tell me, you can do this. That's what I've been told. I will tell you, you can do this. Go do it. You got this. And people who would challenge you to think differently, higher and better about what it is that you can accomplish in this life. So I think that for me, it's really removing yourself from a low energy space. And
Yeah.
then number two, it's also surrounding yourself with people who do vibrate a little higher. Because I think it's important to go after those even vibrational goals that are like 1, 2, 3 steps up.
I always keep thinking when you mention that, I think of places to go and work out. So a yoga studio, a spin class, Pilates, Orange Theory, a gym.
Right.
You can go and find people that want to move their body,
Yes.
that have a fitness goal, that care about their physical and mental health. Where else can we go to meet people that are like-minded that can shift us up?
Go to networking meetings, go to networking groups. If you are a woman and you're a woman in business, find those women in business networking meetings. They are almost in every town in the United States now. I mean, you can find women in business. You can find men in business. If you are a part of like Kiwanis group, find those groups. That's where people are networking. There's Business Networking International, which I'm a part of. That's all over the world. These are people who are wanting to network, wanting to know what it is you do. They want to raise you up. They want to throw business to you. They want to get to know you. So look for the groups in your profession. If you are a stay-at-home mom, which I was when my first couple of kids, I stayed home with them for a couple of years. I found moms groups, but I found people who wanted to read because I've always loved to read. That raised my vibration. So find a book club of moms who can meet on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock and you can really take apart a book and psychoanalyze it. That's raising my vibration. It did that. It really like fed me for a couple of years. Find a support group. If there's addiction in your family, go to an Al-Anon. You can find some of these support groups that are really wonderful and really are there for support and to help you think differently. People who are in have not relapsed. People who are in recovery, who are
Mhm.
really working hard on the recovery and staying sober. Those are groups where you can really find people who are high vibe. You want to be around them. It's contagious. Like you
It
feel that
is.
energy from them. And once you've had a taste of it, you're like, oh, this is what I want all the time. This is who I want to be around all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because they help you dream bigger. They help you see life in a completely different direction. It's like when you're planning a vacation and you're stuck on just looking at the same places, and it's like someone walks into your life and they share some other locales for you, and it just opens up a whole nother
Yes.
part of the world that you had never thought of looking at.
Right. Exactly. Right. I mean, there are times when we're subjective about our own lives. Look, we can't always, to your point, we can't always think outside of our own box because we tend to live in boxes and we just don't know what we don't know. So that's
Yes.
why when you go to these meetings, you meet new people and they say something like, "Oh, I've never thought about it like that before." And then you start to think about, well, how could I do that in my own life? And then when you're around these high vibe people, like I've had women and men say to me, "Anna, like you need, there's so much more you need to do. Like you need to be on bigger stages. Like people need to know who you are." I just had a woman I met at a networking meeting. I was at dinner with her a couple of weeks ago. She's like, you need to be on stages. Have you ever thought about that? She's like, no, big stages. Like I need to talk to some producers downtown. Like you need to get on television. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I've thought about that, but listening to her say it, that brought me up higher. She was like this high, she was thinking about things for me that I hadn't really cemented in my mind, but now it's there because
Yeah.
her vibration, I just latched onto it. I just latched onto that energy.
Yeah, I love that. Well, is that something that we can do when we are in a burnout phase with our business? Can we find a life coach that can help us reorganize the structure of our business so we don't stay in the burnout space, so we don't repeat the patterns, and then edit our life in the way that we're still moving forward in our career, but we're better nourishing ourselves?
Yes, yes. So when my coaching clients come to me, the way that I work is I'm looking at burnout from the very beginning. And most of the women who come to me for coaching, they're either headed straight for burnout or they're already there. Like they're going
Yes.
towards that brick wall. So what I do is I help to pull them back and we go
Okay.
back to self-care. Some of them can go back to it because they did it at one time. Some people never really did it and they're just completely fried. So each person has different wants and needs. Some people need my help in helping them literally organize their day, literally looking at their calendar and helping them get their routine
Mm,
and their schedule and their systems back in place because many times those have
yeah.
fallen off. That's what's leading to the burnout. So I will even, pragmatically speaking, help them. Let me see your calendar. What are you doing? What's your day? When does it start? What are you doing at 7 a.m.? What are you doing at 8? What are you doing at 9? Where's white space? We got to have time in there for you to do nothing. When are you going
Yeah.
to, yeah, like that's really
That's
important.
that
Yeah. And they don't,
seems to
and
be the missing key
yes,
is the nothing time.
you need nothing time. And if you want to scroll TikTok or Instagram at that time, because that's how you choose to spend it, totally fine. I do it too. You go, girl. You go and do that.
Yeah.
So you must go and you must take that time. Maybe you're going to go sit in your back patio and listen to a podcast. You're going to get a cup of tea or coffee. You got to do that. And that's what is missing because most people are going, at least in North America and in the United States specifically, we go until we just drop into bed at night. And usually it's after maybe eating a little late, having some Cheez-Its and having a couple glasses of wine. And we just drop into bed. And so
Yeah.
how is that affecting your sleep? The food that the food you're putting in your body
Yeah.
and not taking any time out to take care of you. So the way that I coach is nuanced for each individual client that comes to me. I am focusing on self-care. I am focusing on getting them out of burnout, getting back into a schedule and encouraging them to go after those big goals. And I'm going to be there right beside you, like I said I would. At the same time, I also want you to throw grace and compassion to yourself too.
Yeah. Do you often or ever ask your clients, like, what are you eating? So when you're looking at their calendar, are you saying, where are you picking up your meals? When are you cooking? Is your food hot or cold? How are you consuming it?
So, coming from the world of eating disorders, I've spent years and working in oncology as well. I didn't mention that. So, I still see cancer patients. So, literally sharing office space with dietitians, sitting next to them, listening to them on their phone consultations, working with dietitians with eating disorder clients, and myself using a sports dietitian when I was a competitive triathlete. She was game changing for me, by the way. She was to help me get on the podium was the food I was eating. So there's no way as a life coach the way I work, that I'm not asking you about how you're eating. There's no way. And I'm asking you about sleep. I'm asking you about exercise. I'm asking you about nutrition, and I'm asking you about your emotional health. Those are 4 key tenets to the work I do with every client. I will talk to them about nutrition. I'm not a dietitian, and I don't go into your field, but I'm often referring to people like yourself. You need to see somebody, you need help. And I will give my own personal testimony about how my dietitian really changed the game for me when it came to competition in sport. If it wasn't for her, I didn't know the things that she knew. And here's the thing for all those who are listening, you don't know what Whitney knows. You just don't know what she knows, because this is what she does. It's what she's trained in. It's what she's spent years making recipes, putting meals together, creating, wonderfully spiritual, life-giving foods. You don't know what she knows. And that's what's really important for all your listeners to really, no pun intended, digest, because
Mhm.
you can give them ideas that they just, oh, I didn't realize that. You could put that together and I could eat that then, and that might help me with this. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about it all the time. I think it's so, so important to longevity, making us feel younger, look younger. It's important to our emotional or psychological health, is the foods we're eating.
Yeah, and if people can't quite grasp what we're talking about, like think about the last time you went on a really long vacation. So you ate out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then it was a great vacation. You had the best time. The food was delicious. But when you finally got home, you were so excited to sleep in your own bed and eat your own meals at home.
Right.
It's simple ingredients. It's less ingredients. It's your own energy going into the food. You can just better control what you need, the freshness, because it's not always fresh when it's prepared at a restaurant.
Right.
Sometimes it was prepared 3 days ago and it's just being reheated for you. So you can feel how the food is making you feel, even if that concept is new to you, even if you don't believe it, you've experienced it before.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's such an important part. So when I was competitively training and racing as a triathlete, I didn't understand the importance of nutrition. And I knew some triathletes had dietitians. I thought, I don't really need it. I'm fine. I'm eating enough food. And I went and got testing done. I went and got my BMR tested, my basal metabolic rate, to see how many calories, because my coach was saying to me, you're not eating enough. That's pretty common in the world of triathlon. Most women and men, but most women are not eating enough. And she was looking at my data, because we would share data with our coach. She says, like, and she said, how'd you feel? It looks like you slowed down, like maybe on a training run or a bike or in the pool. And I said, yeah, I bonked. I bonked. And she's like, you got to eat more. You got to eat more. So I went and got my BMR done down at University of Illinois. And so I knew my daily caloric intake, and I'll never forget the guy who did my BMR testing. He said to me, like, it was like, I think at that time, I was like, what was I, mid to late 40s? Maybe it was a mid 40s. He said 1,600 calories a day. He goes, but that's what he goes, 1,600 calories a day. He goes, that's what you burn if you're in a coma. He's like, that's what you, just lying in a bed for 24 hours, that's what your body is burning. He goes, and you're a triathlete? He's like, do you know how much more food you need to eat? I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. So I told my triathlon coach, and she's like, all right, let's get you a sports dietitian. So I got a woman out of Indianapolis, and she was fantastic. And she made me send her my 3-day journal of what I was eating. And I sent it into her. I'm like, I'm a really good eater. Like, I eat really well. And she says to me, Anna, we got on our consultation call, and she says to me, she goes, you're a grazer. She's like, yeah, you eat okay food. She goes, but you graze all day long and there's no protein in your diet. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, I think I eat a lot of protein. She's like, no, you don't. So it was really an eye-opening experience. And so she changed it all. She said, go back to 3 meals a day. Start there and get that protein in.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whitney, I'm telling you, I was like at mile 6 of a half Ironman, the run part at the very end. I would always bonk. I'd always slow down. I'd have to walk through the water stations, the aid stations, because I just couldn't keep running. I had all my supplies on hand that she gave me, all my gels and salts that I needed to take
Hmm.
while on the run. But because I'd eaten so well preparing for this race, and eaten well 2 nights before, 3 days before, the morning of, I didn't have to walk. I didn't even jog. I had a really nice pace going. And that was that way for probably the last 7 years of racing, because I had this dietitian. It's that
Yeah,
big of a
because
deal.
it is. Food is fuel for the
Yep.
physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. So
Yes.
when I do get burnt out, I always take a look, where have I not been feeding myself? And I think that a lot of us, when we get burnt out with our jobs, with our lives, mentally, emotionally, our food also goes to the side. So we spend less time making meals, we get scrappy, we're just pulling stuff out of the fridge, we're grabbing stuff to go, because we're burnt out, we're exhausted. But if we can start with the food, it will refuel our energy levels to then be able to make some other pivots in our life.
Right. And I know, and I say this to clients all the time. I know it's hard. I know it's a pain. I'm right there with you. I know that food prep
Yeah,
could be annoying. And let's find a time. Maybe you don't want to do it Sunday afternoons because, food prep Sunday afternoons, that's like a, thing you hear and you see on social media all the time. Everybody has their 7, like, Tupperwares out and they're putting all their boiled chicken and their
yeah,
broccoli. And people say, first of all, I don't want to eat poached chicken and broccoli. I don't want to do it Sunday afternoons. Like right now, it's football season. I want to chill with my family. I want to make chili for dinner, and that's all I want to do. All
yeah.
right, that's okay. But let's look at another day where maybe you will have the energy. I know it's a pain, but let's get you making or planning some meals for yourself and your family that you're going to do when you get home from work on Monday night where the kids are in the door. What can you make for them that tastes really good to you and to the kids and that you'll eat? When they plan it, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, when they're doing it, when they plan it and they do it, it does make them feel better. It's amazing what it does. You're right, to your energy. Like, oh, I did this for myself and I did this for my family and I fed myself. I gave myself some really nutritious, yummy foods. So yeah, I mean, so important that we get that into our schedule and we make it something that we do. And I know it's hard, but I always say this: you got to do the work to reap the
Mhm.
rewards later on.
Can you give some advice to people that are just so stuck, out of passion, unclear on the next steps, they don't even know the work to do? Where should they turn? Like what advice can you give to us for when that happens? Because I feel like that can happen to anybody at any time, that just stuck, out of passion, unclear on the next steps of life.
I would say talk to someone. And I have been there. And this is why people come to me for coaching. So find a coach. And if it doesn't have to be a coach in the beginning, but I do think you need to find someone to talk to who can be objective about your life, who can ask you questions and who can challenge you. Someone who knows you, they don't have to know you well, but someone who can ask you challenging questions that makes you think about what is it that you said you wanted to do. What I always ask my clients is, what did you dream about? And what made you happy when you were younger? Brought you joy when you were 9? What brought you joy when you were 13? What excited you when you were 18? And when I remind my clients of their younger selves, we often forget that this is inner child work. And I do bring inner child work into my coaching because this is what makes me different as a life coach. I'm going to use this work that I have because I can't work with a client without talking to you about this. What
Mhm.
made you laugh? What Tell me what your play was like. And what did you think about? What did you fantasize? That really helps to get people's minds going and gets people
Yeah,
excited. So
it
those are some
does.
really good questions. Yeah, those are some really good questions that I ask people when they're in a slump and they have these limiting beliefs that are coming up today. Well, this is today, but who were you 10 years ago? Who were you 20 years ago? And that has been really helpful. So for those who are listening, ask yourself those questions and that might
Mhm.
energize you and get you excited about the possibilities for you, that you can make changes. Sometimes we just forget, our dreams and our desires.
Absolutely. Do you have any tools that you recommend that we can have at home to start with before we find the right life coach, counselor, therapist to work with? Anything that we can build into our morning or evening routine or have in the house, like a journal to
Yeah.
do on a daily basis?
So I journal. I recommend journaling. There's science behind journaling. I know that many people don't like to do it, and there is good science behind it. There's something, and it's not in your phone. There is something to the medium of pen to paper and sitting and writing. So that's the gold standard. If you don't want to do that, there are apps where you can do an audio journal, and that is actually what I'm doing right now. because I'm trying to really save some time just because of the craziness of my work life right now. And actually, a client told me about this. So I will walk around my house because that's better. So I'm somebody who also likes to do a walking meditation. That's something I've been doing
Yeah.
for 20 years. So I will walk around my house. Sometimes I'll walk outside when I'm walking the dogs and I'll talk into my phone and I'll journal into my phone. And there's a really good app out there that I use that spits it back to me what I just said, and they'll give me ideas for what to do in this week based on my journal entries. It's fascinating. It's so great. I'm telling you, it's the best thing.
What's the
And
app
I'm not
called?
sponsored by them, but I should be because I talk about it to
Mm.
everybody. I think it's called Audio Diary. So there you go,
Wow.
everybody. I just gave you a huge hack. If you
Wow.
don't, so the gold standard is journaling pen to paper. If you are someone who has journaled, continue to do it. I do think it is the best because that's where you're going to come up. And the audio diary does it too. That's where you will come up, or it will come up with, this is what you said you wanted to do. This is what I'm going to, by Friday of this week, I am going to have gotten up 30 minutes before the kids are up. And I'm going to have sat in the backyard, listen to the birds, listen to the traffic going by, whatever it might be, and have my cup of coffee. That's what you need to do this week. Those little steps will help to get you back to yourself and
Mhm.
move you out of that slump. But you must first start by taking care of yourself. We all know what they say on the airplanes. In order, with loss of oxygen, put your own mask on first before you help the person next to you. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying right now. Put your own mask on, take care of yourself first, then you can go about tackling all those wonderful, big, audacious goals you have for your life.
I love that. Yeah, and then get the right person to keep you accountable for taking those steps every day.
And
Because
find
it's easy
some,
to take
yeah,
little steps every day, right? So sometimes if we have a big goal, it's just 30 minutes a day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have clients, my coaching clients now. So I send them, we have action steps. I share, a doc with them. And so we both have access to it. For some people, it really is walk for 10 minutes, go to CVS and pick up your medicine. I mean, that's what it is for that day.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
some people, it's, you need to, a week is, and they, of course, my clients, they all agree on their action steps. You're going to respond to those 30 emails. I know it's a pain, but you're going to do it. You're going to do it by Friday or Saturday. I'll text you. So
Yeah.
for everybody, or many people, it's okay. We've been talking about this. You're going to have that difficult conversation this week. You're going to work on some of this friend who really hurt you, and I'm going to coach you through it. Okay, you're ready to go. You're going to have that conversation this weekend when you see her or him. You got to take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I love what you're doing. I think, there's a time and a place for everybody in their life to have a coach. I think it was one of the best experiences I ever had when I worked with a coach. It's something that I want to do again. And I hope it's something that more people consider after they listen to this episode. It doesn't matter what you want to create in your life. I think it just flows with so much more ease and grace when you have someone along your side helping you get there.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be where I am today in my professional life nor my personal life if it wasn't for my coaches. I said that earlier. It's so, so true. So, for me, it was in the early years, it was not going to Starbucks because I wanted to pay for this coaching. So I had to give up
Yeah.
my coffees. I had to give up some of those lunches I'd buy on my lunch hour. And I started making, which ended up being better, making my own lunches and bringing them to work, bringing my own coffee to work because I wanted to pay for coaching, and it was game changing.
Well, I would love to know, is there anything in particular that you're really into right now in the health, wellness, or spiritual space?
What am I into right now? I think the importance of meditation is something that I have been into for quite a while now. And I think for all of us to pay a little bit more attention to our spiritual lives, really.
Hmm.
So much of what we talk about so I talk about the mental, the emotional, and the physical, but I think oftentimes therapists and coaches don't speak enough about each individual's unique spiritual life. And so it doesn't have to be a religion. I'm talking about spirituality. So God, universe, creator, Allah, Jesus, whatever that is for you, but to really pay attention and to direct yourself towards a higher being. And that is been a huge part of my transformation as a person. And so that's what I have been into and I continue to be into. The clients who work with me one-on-one, they know I'm always going to be asking them about, doesn't matter to me what it is for you, but come to an understanding for yourself of what it is you need because you have spiritual needs. We've been ignoring them
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody does. Well, where can people connect with you, learn from you, work with you, share all the places?
So you can go to my website, annamarcolin.com. It's Marcolin. You can find me on TikTok and on Instagram at Ask Anna Marcolin. You can email me, hello at Anna Marcolin for individual coaching. I do that worldwide. Psychotherapy services are only in the state of Illinois. That's where I'm licensed. I have group coaching programs that are about to start. I have a couple. So one for women, one for mothers of tweens and teens. That's been a huge request. They're struggling right now. So I have two group coaching programs starting. The one for women is all about a lot of what we're talking about today: mindset, limiting beliefs, relationships, communication. So it's a little bit of a lower cost, but I'm giving you all the good stuff that I give to all my individual clients in my 30 years of knowledge and practice.
And can you leave our guests with just one last tip they can consider adding into their life?
Time for you. Take time for you, even if it's 5, 10 minutes. And if you don't think you have the time, you have the time. Set the timer on your phone, set the timer on your watch, and take some time for you. Sit, not on your phone, nothing in your ears, and just be with yourself. Please pay attention to what comes up for you, and then work on that.
Mm,
Find help if you
okay.
need it.
All right. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm so happy we've connected.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. I love this. Great conversation.